Welcome to the British Comic Heroes podcast with James, ARW, and your host for tonight, Bod.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Good evening.
For this episode, I thought we'd go through the part work graphic novel collections, as this month sees the launch of the 2000 OD Ultimate Collection.
I've just dropped a Hachette hardcover on the table. My postman, or our postman, delivers quite a few of these during the year.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Just a few. Keeps them in work.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so we'll start off at the beginning. Good place to start. With the Marvel Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection. Launched 28th of December 2011. Initial run of 60. That was swiftly extended to 120. Surpassed that to 150. And before we've reached that, it has been confirmed now 170 issues in that collection.
So you're telling me what November 2011?
December 2011.
That makes all the difference. So December 2011, and we're what, in August
2017.
2017.
I believe the phrase is, you've made a happy man feel very old.
But,
so initial impressions of the collection?
Well, my initial feelings with the collection, other than I know we touched on this on whatever podcast we was it episode 3 of series 1, I think.
I think it was episode 3. Yeah.
You quite rightly said that if you looked at how the volumes are being released, order doesn't really matter, which is, when you actually think about it, it makes a lot of sense. I think the initial feeling with the Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection, I'm looking at, for example, issue 145, which is Deadpool's Secret Wars. Very thin volume. It's got 4 issues in it, and it's volume 101. Any positivity I had about the collection is really starting to wane, because, like I say, 145. We're telling me I've got another 25 issues after this.
Yeah.
Before it's complete.
That's right.
And how many?
Latest issue I got is 147, so I was a couple less than me.
Yeah, well, it's going the right way, I suppose. But some of these have been really, really good. I've really think they've been presented well, they're packaged well, they're cheap, but then you don't really know what you're going to get. And I would say that we refer to the Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection as the Black Collection, because that's what it is, with the main image on the front cover.
Yeah, the black backgrounds, cover artwork. Yeah,
so I think that's a handy catch-all. So yeah, they're very nicely packaged, but you get some duffers in it, and they're adding in later volumes, and you haven't completed your initial 60. So it's almost like a cynical attempt. Let's sneak in. We're at issue 59 now. Let's sneak in.
But it's one of the problems of that kind of the part issue business model, isn't it? It's like a few years ago, I tried to start building that mechanical orrery model of the solar system, and then I sort of did the maths and I thought, Jesus, that's actually going to cost more than the solar system. So I sort of decided to abandon it. But the good thing with this is, I think you're right. It's playing on the completist aspect of it. If you're a collector and you're trying to build up the set. But I must confess, I've got a few, but I got them more piecemeal. And what I appreciate about them, I appreciate the fact that I'm getting reprints on good quality gloss paper with bright colours of some of my favourite Marvel stories, particularly, that I've only got, and I've got some of it. It's like, for example, they did in the Red Collection, the Project Pegasus, which I love. I think it's one of my favourite Marvel stories and sequences, with the Thing and Black Goliath and Quasar, and the creation of the Aquarian, and just having all those relevant issues together in a good quality readable form, I thought was really good. I'm really very, very readable, and a nice addition to my collection. But I've not got the wherewithal to be investing in like the entire thing and then sort of sitting there looking proudly at acres of shelving.
That's
it
takes up an awful lot of space, I have to say.
Yeah. I think that's the other issue, no pun intended. You're making a commitment, in my opinion. If you're doing a part work, you're making a commitment to buy a series that's completing 60 volumes, Although in the small print with Hachette, and they've said this right from the beginning, is we have the right to extend your collection. But I think there's a reasonable extension to a collection, and I'd say 20 issues, maybe 30 on the very outside, to 170, which is 110 more than they were saying the collection was actually going to run to. So that's where I have a problem with it. I just wanted to mention, James mentioned about the Red Collection, which is Hachette's Marvel's Mightiest Heroes.
That's next on the list.
Which is next on the list, okay, I'm not going to preempt you, but all I was going to say with that is I've liked the variation in this particular series less than the black. But going back to the Black Collection, yes, I agree. I think it's a nice package. You're not going to get a trade paperback for that cost for that issues. The only criticism I do have about it is to do, and we've actually have mentioned this before, is the colour reproduction on the classic strips. So if you're looking at anything that was done on the old newsprint with the pastel colours, they're too bright on the high gloss paper.
I find that pros and cons to that. Again, my copies of Project Pegasus in Marvel 2, I think it was, is it Team or 2-in-1 with the thing?
2-in-1.
Yeah. They're great covers on it, but actually it wasn't so much it was pastel. It looked bleached, particularly as the newsprints got older. The colours have kind of faded away from it. So actually, although I agree it's a little bit gaudy at times, I quite like seeing them with it. I think they probably could have got a better balance. I'll go along with that. But actually seeing some of that with solid colours instead of the dots.
I think part of the problem, just mentioning what you're saying about the colour reproduction, I think if you were a colourist in the early in the industry up until the mid 80s when they have better quality paper, you would actually colour the artwork a lot darker. So Spider-Man's blue wouldn't be a light blue that you're probably used to, it would be actually a darker blue. So everything would be a stronger colour because when it's reproduced on the newsprint it comes out lighter. But I think it's almost like they've used the colour schemes and not compensated for the fact you've got good quality paper that's going to hold
it generally comes up. It's quite visible in a lot of the Red Collection because you get the some of the more modern stories, and then they'll, as a filler, they'll put in a classic story, and there's the modern one is benefiting from the fact it's mostly been photoshopped and airbrushed and things, and that is designed to print on that kind of gloss paper. Whereas I agree that it's a little bit too gaudy and a little bit too in your face sometimes when you see the back. But at the same time, I mean, the other alternative would be that you pulled it back, and it would probably look too. It wouldn't look right on the gloss paper. I think that would be very, very hard to find a level of colour saturation that's going to look right when it's printed on that kind of format.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. So.
Yeah. I think with certainly with all these collections, I think the hardcovers, the gloss paper, just the quality of each book is something that is a really good selling point for me.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
With the Black Collection in particular, I like the spread of characters covered. And you
certainly spreading out 170 volumes.
Oh, definitely. And one of the things I do like is you can track the kind of evolution of the Marvel Universe from the classic volumes, from the initial run of 60 up to kind of modern Marvel as it is now, particularly with storylines like X-Men vs Avengers, which really did kick off the modern Marvel Universe as we know it now. And it's got all the stories you need to read. So how did the X-Men get to that point? What's happened to X-Men since? And it does kind of track the kind of key focus points of the Marvel Universe, and that's why the extensions keep coming, and I see the list of books coming up. It's like, I can see where this is going, and I haven't got that story. That's great. I'm still invested. I mean, I will have some reprints with comics I've picked up in the years since, but I think for the next run of 20, I will have 4 books out of that 20 where I've actually got the comics. So that's not a bad deal for me. If it was more than even 50%, then maybe I'd question my involvement at that point.
One thing I wanted to add, I don't know whether it's just 6 or 1/2 dozen other. Would it make sense for Hachette
Hachette.
to stop the black collection and do, say, a blue collection and do another 60 volumes.
Or indeed,
Is
a
it-
black
is
and
it-
blue collection.
Yeah,
where your hero gets beaten up a
While
lot.
it's feeding black and blue.
Because I
Well,
find it was the
that-
latest extension.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, but you've already got your kind of your audience, as you were. And with each extension, there are key stories in that time frame. We're talking literally the last 3 years
Yeah.
that they haven't touched.
Mm.
And I'd put money on the fact there'd be an extension beyond that to cover those and more stories. And in the meantime, 2 more years have passed in comics. You have more stories to
Do
go
you-
back to.
Do you know what I'd want to know is what are the average sales of the black collection now compared to when it launched?
Yeah.
And if you figured in the advertising for Hachette to say, oh, we're launching a blue collection,
Mhm.
you know, would they realistically get, say, 5,000 copies an issue instead of maybe the 3,500 they're getting on the black collection? Because people
Mm.
must be dropping off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This, I mean, the black I think is
I
worth
think
it.
the
The
black
red is
collection
the
is
one.
holding its sales
Yeah.
much better than the rest.
I think the red's the one that's. I find that more variable.
Mm. I've just got this image of modern Marvel sneaking into your house and stealing things, like all the ones that refer to things like the X-Men and the mutants, just repressing their part of Marvel history because they're trying to put that in Fantastic Four. It's going, oh, we don't owe them the cinema properties anymore. Let's substitute an Inhuman story for this. So you'll never notice. They go, think I will. But it's weird. It's sort of, it is trying to be representative of, and you're talking about something that's got over 50 years. In Marvel and then DC far more.
Yeah.
You're trying to be representative of the of some of these great periods. And I've got to say, I think we said something similar in the earlier podcast that there, for me, I find it really odd that I'm particularly interested in even going back to things like the 60s Marvel, like we were looking at Fantastic and things like that. But that doesn't tend to end up in these kind of collections. For me, the iconic period was the 70s and 80s. I think I look at things like X-Men art and things like that. The X-Men and the Avengers in the 70s to 80s is perfect for me. Then after that, I think it just goes horribly wrong in the 90s.
Yeah,
And-
I
and
don't think
it's-
Avengers was particularly well regarded in the 90s, particularly when I was buying comics. It's like, who reads that?
Yeah, fairly
You
ghastly.
might want to speak to Colin about that.
No, I agree.
Because
No, he loves it.
Carl Bussier?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the one Colin's quite keen?
Yeah, but it's
So
again,
I think he's a fan of that.
he is. But the thing is, what he
Have that
likes.
conversation with him.
What he likes
Especially
about
Colin.
that, what he likes about that is he likes the story, particularly the fanboy references that it makes about to like earlier Avengers stuff. But for me, the 70s artwork, again, I've spoken glowingly of this in the past, things like the Even an Android Can Cry is for me one of the most magnificent Avengers stories, and the art styling is just stunning.
You just want me to drop that picture back in the video track.
Damn right, absolutely. All the time, even when there's nothing to do with the podcast. But the thing is, for me, the storytelling was strong, the dialogue was strong, the narrative was strong, the characters were strong. They're still the Silver Age stuff is still some of the most iconic stuff that's being done. You look at when they did the cartoon series Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, they're doing modernised versions of 60s, 70s. Iconic stories like Wonder Man, the creation of Ultron, things like that. It's still getting mined for things like the Age of Ultron. So that period, I think, is really good. And seeing the Hachette collections reprinting that kind of stuff is really interesting. And then I do quite like seeing the heavily photoshopped and airbrushed tone stuff that you get from the more recent, like the 2000s onwards. But that 90s period, for me, it's just a fallow feel.
Just to pick up on what you said about the photoshopped airbrush thing. What I found is a lot of those volumes look very generic to me.
I see. Yeah.
On a technical level,
Yeah.
they're flawless. But what was it called? The End, Fantastic Four with Alan Davis did the artwork.
Yeah.
I love his artwork. It was so technically brilliantly coloured. It actually lost his style.
Yeah.
With all the colour.
I found that
effects that are on it.
I found that it's not in the.
It's almost like the whole thing's been painted. You know what I mean? It's very beautiful to look
but
at.
It's weird. It's like, for example, I read the graphic novel. I got the graphic novel of Avengers Prime and Annihilators and things like that. And again, it's very impressive, but it actually just doesn't really engage me. Whereas something like Bill Sienkiewicz's stuff in the 80s, it's just, for me, it's the high point of comic
high
art.
quality paper with his work.
Yeah, it's just every single frame of that you could put on a gallery wall and be wowed by it.
So, given Bod might be a few years younger than us,
I might be.
What do you? Yeah, I think we've previously mentioned it.
Possibly.
What do you think about the thing about the colours and how it just looks like it's airbrushed and?
I have the benefit of basically growing up with that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's basically what I expect. Yeah, it is normal for me. I agree that there's a slight generic look to many artists' work these days on a lot of books, but then you'll have the complete reverse of that, where you have artists who have their style and their artwork is nothing like anyone else's. And that can be either a good or a bad thing. And then you've got the standout artists who just done off into their own kind of companies and making toys or what have they these days.
Thanks for mentioning the. I don't know if James said it was a good opportunity to stick it on the video track, but the figures of Picard and Kirk.
Yeah, from McFarlane Toys.
McFarlane Toys
out in 2018.
$20.
Yeah,
oh my god! I bet you they're about only 2 inches tall. But
no. The McFarlane Toys, they'd be proper. That big.
Yeah. No, they look brilliantly. They're brilliant.
I believe there's 6 in the initial run, and they've got the Star Trek Discovery license. They'll be doing props and vehicles and all sorts.
So we can get high quality copies of the most ugly Federation ship ever developed. It's just
do you know, James?
It's a Dorito with a ping pong ball stuck on the end.
Do you know what? There's a partwork in this.
Yes, agreed. James James hates in Star Trek. Yeah. The original Enterprise design is beautiful. It's elegant. It's iconic. The Klingon design, the D7, the Katinga that you see in the motion picture, beautiful.
The original Bird of Prey.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're all wonderful stuff. And I mean, I think actually a lot of the Star Trek, as it gets older, subsequent series, like I think the Enterprise D is quite ugly. I think it's misproportioned. I think it looks like a horrible toy. But the Voyager looks like a knockoff shovel-stroke Battlestar. But
as an aside, I think there's a Star Trek podcast that can be happening here. So.
And we have we did
after the farming podcast in Series 1, we've got a Trek one and a...
But we did talk about representation, for example, in the 60s TV comics, about how Star Trek was represented there. So there's a crossover. But things like
we're not doing it, by the way. We can't cope what we're doing now. We're not doing a Trek
Denied.
podcast.
We can do a Trek episode in October once Star Trek Discovery started airing in the current.
But I know that the argument is that the Discovery is based on Macquarie's concept designs, and it's also meant to represent the IDEC, the Vulcan peace symbol. It's still hideously ugly.
It's not a pretty shirt.
No, it's a Klingon. It's a bad fusion of Klingon design and Federation design.
I'll tell you what though, I reckon get involved in the merchandise early, because if the series goes as I suspect it may, that'll be highly collectible in about 10 years' time, because it'll be so rare.
Yeah, but then again, it's like there's the line in the comic book movie The Spirit, where the octopus goes, "You're deader than Star Trek."
It will never die.
Exactly. But it's okay. But the thing is that some of the things that are most collectible of it are the things that basically that sucked basically, and nobody bought them. It's like the most valuable of things like I may be wrong here, but I think it's correct. The most valuable of the Star Wars figures are things like the minority ones, like third cantina player from the back sort of thing, not the ones which the heroes.
Yeah, everyone's got like a Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, haven't they?
It's like I had a sketch once. This guy was getting at the point where he says, "I've got every single Dune figure." What do you mean everyone? I said, "No, I've got every single Dune figure ever produced. It's worth 50 quid a lot." And I love Dune. I love the 80s film of it. But it's so out there. And some of these things, even Star Trek things I quite like. I nearly bought the Enterprise phase pistol, and I've got quite a collection of phases and things like that. And it annoys me that I haven't got that in my little collection.
Can I phase us back into partworks?
Yeah,
I think we are straying a little bit.
Yeah. So
bless you, James.
But we digress.
Yes.
So briefly then,
that was so
very subtle,
As a brick.
Nicely done. So briefly, any particular story highlights from the Black Collection
Well, there's so many to choose from.
I know,
God.
so many to choose from.
How do you sleep at night?
I mean, personal favourites
Great
of
difficulty.
mine, just to pick kind of 2/3.
Yeah.
Planet Hulk, World War Hulk,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
choice,
the X-Men vs Avengers storyline in particular. Not to say that there weren't a lot to choose from, because there are and continue to be.
Do you know what? I think the ones that stick in my mind are the ones that cause me problems. Death of the Stasis, which had pages missing, which you might think, well, you know, the pages are numbered, so, you know, on the original artwork they're numbered, so you might spot there was something missing. But the actual range of strips they were doing was when Marvel were doing half-page adverts. So you'd have half a page of Spider-Man. You try and work that out. Oh, you look half out the page. Oh, that's 12. Oh, that's 13.
Well, at least they're not
And you're
using
looking
the
at
same,
it, you think, where's the gap? I know, there's something missing.
at least they're not using the same tactics that we were talking about in the first podcast about how the British things like the Alan Class reprints would do things like white out pieces and then draw lines. And maybe we could get around it by drawing in completely random frames of a cutaway. A little vignette scene that nobody's ever seen before.
But
What?
Black Hachette, they did actually replace it relatively quickly, but I couldn't get from them if they wanted the 40 volume back for quality control reasons. That was my thinking, because I didn't want it in the house any longer than it needed to be. But yeah, they replaced it without any quibble, which was good. The other one which sticks in my mind is Fear Itself, because I didn't get it. I did get 2 volumes of the Korvac saga, which I must admit you like.
I like
Fear Itself is 2 volumes.
I didn't want it the first time. I didn't want it twice. But
but again,
Hachette again did give me the missing volume.
Again,
Didn't want the duplicate one.
the weird thing is, which is just referring briefly to our digression, sometimes the prints that have got errors in them sometimes become very collectible.
Oh, don't tell me that.
No, it's things like, you know, the sort of like the misprints, the ones where they've got errors and things like that, because of the recall, because it gets pulled.
Well, I haven't got it with me, but I've got the Star Trek one where they, you know, I think it was just my copy, but it happens periodically, where the pages were actually joined at the top of the volume.
Yeah.
So it's quite clearly printed. The pages were printed upside down, the right way up, and then folded again, and then the top's cut off and stuck in the.
I made myself very popular.
So I've got it all joined at the top. They're very frustrating.
I made myself very, very popular at Methvens. It was when they were selling off.
That sounds like a cough mixture.
This
is actually a bookshop, by the way.
Yes, it was a
bookshop.
bookshop. It was a bookshop where I actually had the very good fortune
Yeah.
at another occasion to meet John Higgins and got him to sign a limited portfolio I had of Watchmen artwork. It's quite rare. And he went, I bet that's going straight on eBay, and over my dead body it is. He was a lovely guy.
He hit you over the head, did he?
No, pretty much, mugged me for it. I did manage to annoy Glenn Fabry, because I mentioned that the Blackfriars in Neverwhere were supposed to be black. Now his artwork is really, really good in it, but I'm just going, the whole point was they were black. That's the entire point. It was a joke for Lenny Henry. But anyway, the thing was, I bought the Ultimates Volume 2, the complete sort of, and it's really expensive. It's about 30-40 quid of very sort of expensive graphic novel. And I got it home and I opened. There's a massive gatefold that you open up, and as I opened it, there was a little, because it had stuck part of the gloss together. So I went back and I got it exchanged, and I got it on a sort of 2-for-1 offer, and they were like, and I said, no, seriously, I'm buying this. This is 40 quid's worth of graphic novel. And I don't expect it to have a fault like this in it. I'm sorry, but if you want to return it and get it sorted, that's not actually merchantable quality. And they're a bit, oh my God. I said, no, seriously. Because something like that, it's iconic, and I don't want a flaw in it. And some of these things, there are some little faults and things like that. I suppose with something like Hachette things, I'm probably more tolerant of it. But, going back to your saying, Bob, I thought, for example, with that, I just love things. For me, it's the collections where it gets together something that I really, really love, and it brings it together. I just sit down and get it down, and this is the thing. Part of it is the pleasure of ownership and the completeness and the collection thing.
Yeah.
But part of it is sitting there and reading the damn story. And just going, this is brilliant. And perhaps sometimes you get a collection and it's got an issue that you haven't seen before. You know, that it's collected it together, or that the pairing they put with a classic issue is particularly apt and thought-provoking, something like that. I'd just love to get some of my I'd love to get some of my. I was a big fan of the Invaders back in the day. I'd love to get some more Invaders good quality collections and reprints, something like that. So I think this is good. This is good, but equally, like I say, I'm a dipper in this. I buy it because I like that particular issue, and I'm not going to collect the.
Are you a big dipper?
I'm a moderate. No, yeah, I'm a well. This is where I'm sitting. No, it's the. I'm a
That's a different podcast.
Exactly. I'm a moderate dipper. I'm a moderate dipper.
Moderate dipper. Okay,
And
that's the quote that you're using.
And the weird thing is that I've tended to go for the red collection more than the black. Because they're the titles that have interested me more.
I'm glad you've mentioned the Red Collection, because that leads us nicely into the Marvel Motus Heroes collection.
Yep.
Launched 27th of December 2013, again for an initial run of 60.
Years later,
We know it's been extended to 100 now.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently on issue 96, I believe, is the next issue due out.
Do you
There is
have
no sign
so
of an
there's
extension
4
at the
more and
moment.
it's finished.
4 more. It finishes the 28th of October, I think.
Oh,
ish,
joy.
and it looks like there's
It's
no extension.
It's
to
like
that.
watching The Wire, watching a crap film. First of all, you've got your big discount issue, 99p for a brilliant title.
Yeah.
Then they hook you in. Then they go, there's only be 60 issues. Then they go, oh, actually, it stretches out to the line of dawn, basically. And then they go, what? There aren't this many numbers in the world.
Can I mention you talked about the building the universe?
Yeah.
I mean, how many years was it going to take you to build that?
Not the universe, that'd be quite a big...
Oh no, the
the solar
planet.
system.
Solar system.
Yeah, I've got to say,
How many-
I would have spotted
How
that.
long? Yeah, sorry. Okay.
No, it would have taken 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, God did it in a week.
Well, exactly, allegedly.
Hachette sorted out.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, he didn't do it in a week. He did it in 6 days, and he skimped. Basically, that's one of those things. There's an awful lot of design falls in it, and I got that.
Yeah, well, he might have been polishing some planets or something.
But it's one of those things. It's like they've done things like that on some of these things. For example, there was one where you built yourself a 3D printer. And it took years to do this, right?
Just buy a 3D printer and print a 3D printer.
Yeah, exactly.
Build back Pearl, bleed the Millennium Falcon, build the DeLoreans. I think the latest one this year.
R2D2,
R2D2.
It's an interesting model, but I mean,
with some tie-in graphic novels.
Yeah. But I mean, I literally with the orrery thing. Again, I've got to say, if it had said build the entire universe, I would have been a bit suspicious of that one. And again, things like, right.
Yeah. Can I step this back, please? I don't appear to be in it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
What scale is this?
I did actually once, many years ago, the digression. I got a scan done of me, a 3D scan at the Millennium Dome, and you could upload yourself into The Sims, and it was really eerie. You see yourself walking around in The Sims, and you're sitting there watching yourself play a computer game. It's infinite recursion. But no, it was with those ones. It was a case that you looked at it, and the total cost was greater than buying the thing outright.
Yeah.
But the thing with this is, you can't. I mean, I actually do like going into comic book shops and going through the original issues and things like that, and I find things like 60s and 70s issues that I wanted, and I like having the original in it. Yeah. But equally with these reprints, it is good that their pricing is pretty good for a hardback reprint.
Yes, totally agree.
With good quality print.
I'd rather stick to the commitment they're making and just launch a new collection that you have an option of taking that on, rather than 170 on black. What do you say we're doing?
It's 100 on red.
100 on red, yeah.
I sound like a casino here.
And I think with the red collection also, the volumes are substantial quite often, unlike the black collection, which varies quite a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
they are chunkier.
Yeah. I've got 2 in front of me. This is what I had to hand when I came
Random
tonight.
selection.
Random selection. So I've got Deadpool's Secret Wars, which is Deadpool's Secret Wars. Issue 1 of 4, it is, what would you say that was, James? It's less than a millimetre, isn't it?
Yeah.
3/4 millimetre. I've also got Red Collection, which has got 7 issues in it.
Centimetre, surely.
Yeah.
Not millimetres. Millimetres would be like that.
Yeah. I'm just demonstrating how thin it looks.
Are you talking about the paper?
Yes. Microns.
Yeah.
Welcome to Micro and Micronauts.
Okay. I'll take the shame. So if you look at these 2, one is clearly, it should. I mean, there's 7 in one, 4 in another. It is literally double, almost double. If you look at the paper cap.
Yes, but you're still paying the same price.
You're saying the same price.
Red Collections, is that 7 books, 8 books?
That's 7. This one includes. I'm actually looking at issue 71, which is volume 62. For those who care, Moon Knight. And it's got Werewolf by Night 32 and Moon Knight Volume 5 issues 1 to 6. There's 7 issues in there, same price as the Deadpool's Secret
Yep.
Wars with just 4 issues on it.
Yeah.
But like I say, pick that up as a trade paperback, you're going to pay more than that.
Yeah. I think one of the things about the Red Collection I have liked, and it's also applies to the Black Collection to a certain extent, is it's introduced characters to the reader which have just had films or TV series that have been greenlit,
Right.
or maybe about to due come out. So I've got a small list of the ones as an example. Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
The Runaways, which is a TV series still to
Okay,
come, Cloak and Dagger, Scott Lang Ant-Man,
Yeah.
Jessica Jones,
That's where I got to.
Quality bookmark there.
Yeah.
The Defenders,
We won't discuss
Squirrel
that further.
Girl,
No.
Yeah, Squirrel Girl, yeah.
and also just characters you may not have read because it's more recent, like Flash Thompson, Venom,
Right, yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I think the downside to this collection, and I think you'll agree with me here, is that the Red Collection contains an awful lot of the 90s miniseries, which weren't particularly good at the time, and don't really hold up now either. For example, Pet Avengers.
Yeah.
I wasn't really hoping for
That's
that one.
that's one thing that annoys me about this
dear.
about this release model, because you end up with things you're going, I don't really want to give this space on my shelf, to be honest. And I think a lot of the 90s Marvel, I'm going, I'd quite happily burn it. It's like they did things like there was like a reboot of Avengers that they did. I can't remember the exact issue of it. And it was just monstrously bad. The artwork was terrible. The narrative, you go, why? It's like there's an old joke about an Irishman. Forgive the cliche here, who is washed on a desert island, and a motor cruiser is washed up on the island, and he smashes it to pieces and builds a raft out of it. And a lot of the 90s Marvel go, this is what you're doing. You've been given really brilliant source material, and you're producing a vastly inferior visual and narrative version of it. I don't understand why they went. And you can see, forgive the implication here, that why Marvel financially struggled in the 90s, because they were producing really seriously poor products. And forgive it. And I'm a Marvel fan from the year dot. But I look at the 90s stuff with aghast at some of this stuff. And this is the problem, let's get back on task here, on topic. That when you're being given that as part of it, you're going, seriously, why do I want this? I'm going, I don't want to read this.
I've always said Marvel was trying to kill off or control the direct sales market in the 80s. So they ended up, they knew that they could sell more copies of an issue 1. So they were doing a lot of limited series. And I fell into that trap of every time there was a Marvel miniseries, I would buy issue 1, and because it's only 4 issues long, I would buy. And there was a lot of rubbish that they printed. And it's ended up in the Red Collection. One of the ones I do remember was the Falcon. I think it was the initial
volume.
Although there was a second Falcon series, I believe, that was a lot better. Or the ones that not turned up and should have done was the miniseries of Hercules from the 1980s. They did 2 of those, and they were very good, but they've not turned up. But to me, the Red Collection has a lot of filler.
Would you like to know the very last issue of Red Collection? I don't know what issue, volume number, it is, but issue 100.
You obviously haven't done your
know what
research,
character
have you?
it is?
Is it beginning with Z?
No. For me, it's going to be, certainly one of the highlights, and I say that sarcastically. Machine Man would be your final volume.
Good lord.
Okay, can
At
I
least it's
just,
not wrong
can I
the
just
space
say?
side.
We've got Quasar,
on.
Beta Ray Bill.
Beat Ray Bill will give you 4 with Walter. Is it Simonson? Simonson, I think it's the artist.
Yeah, Simonson.
Can I just say, if it's Machine Man, it might be. This Red Collection. They might give you the issue where Kirby created the character as Mr. Machine, which then becomes Machine Man, and that's off the 2001 spin-off that we actually watched from the previous podcast, and will be in our Kirby retrospect on the 28th of August. There are, at the moment, as we talk, there are 100 images from Jack Kirby of his original artwork going on. There's 5 a day that's going on at the moment, and Machine Man's part of that. But if they add the mini-series done by Barry Windsor Smith, who we haven't heard before, he did a mini-series of that. That is very good. So the character,
he's
Barry
very
Windsor
much
Smith and Kirby's original
tier,
could be interesting.
But I find
Out on Thunderbolts, I think, is the other one of the 4 still
Okay.
to go.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
what we have coming out in the Red Collection now.
But like I was saying, at least it isn't Rom the Space Knight.
Oh,
No, actually, the thing was, I actually really liked some of Rom, but some of it I really hate. It's like the opening issue, I thought the artwork, the Galadorians, the battle fleet, the race, brilliant. And then it just sort of like nosedived quite a bit. But what amazed me, I read the Annihilators, and the flipping Galadorians and the Dark Wraiths are back, and I'm going, you're kidding me! This is like something I thought had been consigned to the grave decades ago. But
then you've now seen the toy that it was based on.
Yeah, agreed.
Which you've seen our video
which
track
is just
on that particular.
horribly crude. But Tonight Machine Man, I actually have to confess, he's a bit naff, but I had a bit of affection for him. I quite like the machine-based hero. But again, I think that's probably nostalgia.
Go back to Kirby's original 2001 kick-off storyline.
Yeah, so that's our 2 Marvel Power collections.
Yes, let's get
So, to recap, Black Collection, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Ding, Black Collection, more consistency with it. I was going to say pissed off. Less happy with the commitment I'm having to make with it, so 170 volumes. Not happy about it because I don't know that it's finishing at 170.
No,
because
no.
You said it was a joke, and I feel
I'm half serious. I expect it will hit 200.
I think Bod's got his finger on the pulse. I think it's going to hit 200. I don't see it ending anytime soon.
No, I think it's like Achilles and the tortoise, sort of trying to catch itself up, get to the halfway point.
Red Collection.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's in the middle. It's sort of, I'm not sure.
Tentative
because there has been
non-committal.
Well, there has been some genuinely good volumes in it, but there's been some genuinely really naff volumes in it.
Yeah,
it's not as strong or consistent as the black. That's what
I'm going to go. I'm going to be controversial and go almost the diametric opposite here. I prefer because I'm not buying the entire.
You're cherry picking.
No, yeah, exactly.
Cherry picking.
So I find I like the choice of the material I'm seeing in the Red Collection. I like the bigger size. These are the bigger, chunkier size. I like the fact that it's reprinting some of my favourites. With the Black Collection, I found far less material in the Black Collection to tempt me. So I'm buying them as effectively as hardback graphic novels with irritating numbers on the side of them that look slightly odd when I put them together. But it is a different way of buying these things, and that does lead me to different criteria. But I find that some of the choices they're making, it's kind of like Star Trek The Next Generation, forgive the parallel. It's like there was a lot more of it, there's a lot of padding in it, but the best of it is probably better than the original Star Trek. But the worst is fairly dire, and there's some real fun stuff in there. And it's the same thing with things like the Red Collection. There's some really horrific stuff. You couldn't get me to buy the 90s reprint stuff if you were attacking me with a cattle prod. I would be.
I just happen to have one with me.
No, it's not going to work. You need more voltage. But but whereas the black, it just curiously doesn't really engage me as much. I think it's because I'm buying it for titles and stories I have a particular regard for.
It seems it's more with black for you, more quantity over quality, and I think it's purely down to the volume numbers really. But yeah, that's fine. So
yeah, for me, black gets a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Red. I can see what you're saying, kind of neither yes or no. Some volumes I thought that's really good.
Yeah, totally agree.
I do like the size of most of the volumes.
I mean, the Moon Knight one
I like
got
the
here
variety.
is I think
but then you get a Duff one. It's like, why is this here? Why have they giving me this one? So I think again tentative for that one.
Yeah. So was that neither?
Yeah, neither up nor down. So yeah, agree with you.
Well, like sort of, it's like the board has decided one balanced person, and we're two extremes on the other side of it. So we basically cancel each other out. But yeah, we like the idea. I think it's just totally, and appreciate the good quality reprints.
Yeah. And not in order of release, but the next collection, the DC graphic novel collection, launched 19th August 2015. So fairly recent.
It's not good. It's not so bad. I've got a random volume here, which is 45. I don't know what it's on.
Volume 45, literally volume 45. That's the order it comes out in. It's Eagle Moss.
What's the commitment on this one?
The commitment for that one is 60 issues. There are, as of this month onwards, 7 still to go. So we're still in the window for an extension. Bearing in mind, issue 60 is Flashpoint, the
Right.
story that kicked off the new 52,
Mhm.
which would
Right.
make for an obvious extension if they chose to do that, and we'll probably find out in the next month or two if they do.
Okay. I must admit, I'm a bit behind with my Eagle Moss. I heard within the past week, a colleague of mine is also collecting Eagle Moss's DC,
Okay.
and he's getting 3 volumes
Mm.
instead of 2.
All right.
What, a month?
Yeah, and he rung them, and they suggested to him that they were trying to finish the collection off quickly.
Right.
Are
Interesting.
you? How
I
do you get yours?
haven't. Last
Get
time I
your-
got them 2 a month,
So it'd be interesting to know
up to date
whether.
as of July.
I mean, like I say, I'm behind at the moment, but it'd be interesting to know whether they are purposely releasing more volumes
Mhm.
Yeah.
during the calendar month.
Because if
just
they
to
are, I
finish it
assume they
off.
will be charging you that extra
They will
issue
be.
as well.
They are.
Which might explain why.
Which is why he queried why
Yeah.
he was charged. I was late starting with Eagle Moss's DC collection, and what they did, they got me up to date by giving me 3 volumes instead of 2. So they were giving me more volumes per calendar month than I would have done until I got up to date.
Because at 2 a month, this collection, I mean, it's still coming out every fortnight in the newsagents. This collection's due
Yeah.
to end in December. Will be the issue 60.
Yeah.
So
I must admit, I do like Eagle Moss's collection.
Mhm.
The paper, I do think the paper's thinner than the Hachette stuff.
Mm.
I
But
think it is because
it
it
just
seems to
look-
cover a
it
similar
looks
number
very
of
nice.
issues, but each book is thinner than definitely a red one.
Mm.
I like the smell of them as well.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that or not, but
That's
yeah.
right.
Unfortunately, we don't have Smello
Smell of
audio.
Just think of strawberries and just rose petals and stuff. And that's probably close
Well,
to
that could be the new range release, couldn't it? The Blueberry collection.
Yeah.
But it's
Scratch and Sniff Red Arrow, or Green Arrow, what his name is.
It's probably an incredibly bad.
I don't want to scratch and sniff Batman.
No, exactly.
No,
Or the
no.
Hulk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah.
We'll draw a discrete line over
Yeah,
it.
not going there.
I don't. I do find out. I don't know if you noticed this particular issue. It's not quite as. I don't think it's quite as crisp and vivid as the Hachette print. It looks kind of slightly light in the colour art, but it could just be the art style of this particular issue.
You've got high gloss paper, and the light
Yeah.
conditions here might necessarily be ideal, but
That's nice. This year one, very very nice. It's just as a there's a sort of double page spread thing, and it's a style. Well, no, so it's 2 singles, but it's a style I really really like. It's like quite 60s illustration style, which is really really with a lot of airbrushing and things.
and then
Really,
you've
really
got
nice.
obviously the classic strip at the back.
Yeah.
I always find those fascinating. Just
Mm.
the contrast with it.
Hmm.
It's quite interesting if you think about it, because when those were, of course, being written and released, they would never have thought that, say, 50 years later, people would be reprinting them, let alone on something like digitally enhanced, high quality paper and things like that. So there's an interesting.
I do think you have an interesting point there. I just want to mention as an aside, and we get back on track.
Yeah.
Somebody pointed out that who was the original artist on Batman? Was it
Bob Kane.
Was it? Yeah. The original
Bill
image
Finger?
of Batman on the cover of. Ooh, is it Batman or Detective Comics? What's
Detective
Detective
the
Comics.
first one?
Issue
Yeah,
32, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's actually based on a drawing of Flash Gordon.
Right. Oh, right, yeah.
So, whereas it probably wouldn't have been noted at the time, all these things are out digitally. Somebody's clocked that
Well, it's like
they lifted them from other.
there's a
other
friend of
images.
ours on the Marvel UK group who was very, very good with his visual memory. And he would be he pointed out, for example, something I'd never spotted, which is the cover of the Three Doctors, the Doctor Who Target
Yes,
novel,
yeah.
was referencing Galactus.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, but I hadn't picked that up because my visual memory isn't.
Big hands.
Yes, and exactly, but he put out things like the image of Superman looking up, distraught, holding Lois Lane's body, and showed how that was replicated on X-Men and things like that.
Yeah,
and that ability
yeah.
to do this is a combination both of having a very strong visual memory and good comics knowledge, but also the fact that the digital age does make it possible to see these things because we've probably spent a great deal of money on comics over the decades, but you can't see everything, whereas the digital one you can acquire archives and see huge amounts. and just do searches on Google and things like that and see these comparisons. So
I've done a comparison over something, and I don't know if I'd actually spotted it before. If I had, I'd forgotten. Somebody pointed out that the last Captain Britain strip in Super Spider-Man, I don't know the issue, it does end abruptly, and he's saying, they use an image from a splash page previously in the run, and then put a title box on. So I actually found the original image and then superimposed one over the other and did some transparency work to line them up, and that's exactly what they did. They just cut and paste from another strip. The thing is, when you look at that last panel, that's the last ever British panel for Captain Britain. There's a little triangle on his shoulder where the speech balloons started. But blink and you miss it.
What I'd like to see in Hachette or Eaglemoss would be a collection of the Hostess Twinkie adverts in both for a couple of decades.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I in all honesty, I would, because I've seen these.
We've run one of them. We've run one of that.
But it's actually, for me, that was part of the experience of reading it. You know, all these ridiculous little adverts, and one thing I miss from these reprints is the fact that you don't see the advertising. And sometimes actually seeing the original is really funny. It's the nostalgia experience.
It can be a nice time capsule.
Yeah. And you go, okay. I was disappointed because I never bought any sea monkeys, for example. But then I've been disappointed if I got the sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys are X-ray specs, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a classic.
Yeah, it's
or the 13-foot long ghost, or whatever it was.
Yeah. All these kind of things. But it was part of the era, and you see other things. You see things like in the Marvel UK reprints, and you see things like adverts for things like Star Wars coming out. So, in some ways, the fact that the advertising isn't reprinting is depriving you a little bit of the retro experience. So obviously, it brings your page count down. But things like Curiosity, I was really amazed because I read so much more Marvel and very little DC. I was really surprised to see the DC versions of them. And I was going, oh God, that's like the Green Arrow suddenly has got Hostess Twinkies or some other one. I did a couple of years ago manage to get some Hostess Twinkies in Poundland, and I was hideously disgusted by the things.
When I went to America the first time, not that long ago, one thing I actually put on my list I wanted to try was the Hostess Twinkies, and apparently, if you survive a nuclear war, they'll probably still be viable.
Yeah, exactly. It's in
it's just.
Is it Wall-E where there's a bug lives on one?
Lives in a Twinkie.
They're invulnerable.
And Reese Pieces, I think, was the other thing. But I do love those.
But the art style that you saw in the adverts was brilliant. Yeah. It's a style I really, really like. And I genuinely would buy a collection of the adverts because they were funny. And the art style is good.
We're going to do a strand on ideas Hachette can use for collections. So I think James was giving me an idea for
Sea
that.
Monkeys, the red collection.
The first one's going to be the BCH artwork collection, which is all our posts going back for the past 2 years, with commentary and in full colour on glossy paper. And I think James's Twinkie advert thing, I think that's going to be the second collector's set.
They were, in all fairness, horrible.
Yeah, they were.
Bring us back to the DC collection.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have the run of 60 books.
Brilliant.
Padding that out, we have the optional specials, which is there'll be 10 specials in total, which cover all the Crisis stories, Green Lantern Brightest Day, and the 1 million story. And the very final, the 10th issue, will be Invasion. How do we feel about those? They're £20 a piece. They're pretty substantial.
They are. They
come out
are
almost like every 2-3 months on
like
occasion.
They are. They're 12, at least 12 issues, aren't they?
Yeah, I think about 12 issues is about the average.
I like them. I would be happy if the price point was more around the £15 mark. You're effectively buying 2 extra volumes, I think, at the price point. They've been good quality. Arguably good value for money in a hardback. I think maybe
happy with the choices that they've done there.
Certainly the initial. I'm obviously an 80s boy in respect of Crisis and Infinite Earths, but cautiously,
cautiously happy.
Yeah, I just think the price point should be.
In the 80s, I remember I was a huge fan of one of the rare DC things I got into, the two things I really got into curiously were Son of Ambushbug, which I thought was hilarious, and Amazing Man. And there's a Mickey take of the Crisis on Infinite Earths in Amazing Man, where this rubbish little comics print house. He goes, what's this? They're killing things. He says, right, tell you what we'll do, we'll just kill all the heroes off in one bit, and there's this massive explosion. He goes, what are we going to do next? Says, comic books just bring it back again. It's so true. But it was a very clever sort of narrative little arc there. I thought was good. But I mean, the weird thing for me is I've just never really engaged with DC in anything like the one I do with Marvel.
No, I agree. It's like my entire comic book buying history. It's been in the 90s. It was fairly even between Marvel and DC. Maybe at times I was buying slightly more DC because of my involvement with the Batman titles, as well as things like Spectre, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel at the time was mainly Spider-Man, X-Men related. By far and large, my biggest collection during the 90s was my Image Comics collection. Spawn and all of Rob Liefeld's books, Top Cow. I bought most Image Comics back in the day. Oddly enough, when I briefly gave up buying comics, they then launched a little title called The Walking Dead, and we know how that's done. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest tragedies at the moment, because Image Comics, whilst it's still giving independent artists and writers a platform to really kind of show their stuff, they're not the third, arguably biggest comics publisher out there, as they were at one point. They were pretty much always in the top 5 selling comics, with particularly things like Spawn was a very high hitter back in the day.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see them in their heyday, and certainly some of my favourite artists and writers from back then. But kind of more modern day, it's very kind of Marvel heavy. And that's not to say the DC stuff isn't as good, if not better, because it is still of a really high quality. But yeah, it's a funny tightrope one can walk if one does kind of look at the whole spectrum of the
well, I remember back in the day, I mean, I used to buy a lot of those pocket books that came out, and I remember there was one which I subsequently bought the issue, the Superman issue. It was till I came across it, and it was the one where Superman has got there's this villain, supposed villain or something, who's got a big round head with a big eye. Basically, it's like his head is an eyeball, and it's it's a really iconic kind of image. Yes. And I quite enjoyed it as a kid, and I got it. And it's a nice little iconic image, but the narrative in it is just rubbish. It's so shallow, and you're thinking Lois Lane must have the brain of a pea, basically. Whereas the curious thing is, I look at things like the Marvel ones I was buying in the same era, and they're presumably from similar dates from the originals. And yeah, they're a bit clunky. They're a bit of things like, I don't know, Hulk versus Tyrannus kind of thing. But I read that and I still get a buzz from it. Whereas I read the stuff, the DC stuff I read, and it doesn't work for me.
I think the DC. I've looked at early with the Jack Kirby thing, which will be coming in episode 3. I've been looking at some of the Kirby covers and specifically Jimmy Olsen, and that's had a really weird life. It survives into the 1970s and Kirby takes it over. Yeah. But there's an in-between period where the cover sells it. I don't think the narrative inside is going to engage you. But you know what? Even now, looking back at those covers, I think I actually want to read the story based on the cover. As I don't judge a comic book by its cover, but there's something DC were very good at, and that was an eye-catching cover.
I'm not talking. I would agree.
Jack Kirby. Galactus and the Fantastic Four. We're talking Jimmy Olsen marrying a chimpanzee. Or him pretending he's dying and asking Superman to tell him what his secret identity is. You know what I mean? That sort of. How does they get out of that?
It reminds me of the one where Lois Lane turns black for an issue in order to investigate. It's just iconic. It's like, what the hell?
Yes, I want you to love me for me.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
One of the things DC wants you to forget.
Exactly.
I'd want to forget it. Yeah. Okay.
Finally, if subscribers who wish to go the extra mile, pay an extra £1, we have the premium issues. One book per 20 volumes. The Blackest Night saga. How do we feel about those?
I'm going to hold my head up here. I'm loving it.
It is really good.
I know. I'm paying the 20 odd quid for it.
Yeah.
Larger size, thicker volume,
Dust
hardcover,
jacket.
dust jacket. Oh my god, prestige. No,
This
I'm a
is-
fan.
This is like a pusher. Going,
I'm a fan,
I've
yeah.
got the special stuff here in my jacket. I don't know. It's like, why can't you offer this? It's just
Quite honestly,
clever
James, if you're
enticement.
trying to peddle those sort of graphic novels, you know, something you'd be dragging
And this
your
is-
feet.
this is true.
You'd be dragging
I-
your
yeah,
feet, like, oh my god, we'll get rid of these graphic novels soon.
Exactly. I have a coat
wanna
with
go
very,
home.
very big pockets in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, yeah. But it is kind of like they do this. They do this with things like the figure collections, don't they? You get these
It's
occasional sort of big special issue,
Yeah,
very,
but
very hard
it's a
expensive.
loyalty thing, and then
Yeah.
you are paying for it. But when you get it, I
Yeah.
mean, I'd rather pay an extra £1 on the collection
Sure.
and
Yeah.
get it rather than say, oh, this week we're giving you a special, but you have to pay us £20 or £25 for it. I think perhaps not.
I
But
think
do you know what? I do think they're good value for money.
The premiums.
The premiums, I am very impressed with those. Thumbs up.
All the subscription models for the books we've covered so far, the DC one has to be hands down the best. What you get for your extra £1
Why
is
can't they release
phenomenal.
them in transfers or things to stick in your window or a flying disc? That's the way it used to be back in the day.
I can see another part work coming.
Indeed.
Right, what's the next one, Mr.
The next one, probably won't spend as long as this due to the material.
We'll probably need to wrap.
Transformers G1 collection, Generation 1 collection, fairly recent, launched in 27th December 2016. Now this is going to cover the entire history of Generation Comics from beginning to end.
So is that finite? They're still doing them.
It's an initial run of 80 books.
Yeah.
The comics are still being reprinted, but not at a mega rate like something like Marvel or DC are doing.
Right.
So you may get one book a month, if that. But what I do love about this collection is it's a Hachette collection. It's done in the British wider format, reprinting.
Thumbs up for that. Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the hardcover and the glossy paper. But the fact that, regardless of the random nature of their release, when it's complete, you'll have the very first comic at the beginning and the very latest at the end, and you can read it all from beginning to end in chronological order.
Yeah.
No other collection does that.
Yeah.
Not even the DC collection, which comes out volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is in no order whatsoever when you look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that is so good. I mean, the Black collection is vaguely chronological, but very hit and miss.
That went out the window.
But the Transformers one, it's solid all the way through,
Excellent.
and I think that's a really good thing to have, really.
Yeah.
Just from beginning to end. And for me, as a 80s child and Transformers fan, I'm loving it. I have to say, particularly the more recent stuff, because I haven't read a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's only picked up from its very early 80s roots, which we covered in the first series. And there's some top quality stuff going on there. And who knows, one day, may get the Brit Formers guys in there.
Maybe.
Nice segue there. Nice link.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Yeah.
The next collection, I think we'll enjoy this one, the Star Trek graphic novel collection.
Yay. Now
Launched 5th of January 2017. Initial run of 80 books to go. And it's not saying it's going to be complete by any stretch, so extensions quite possible.
Right, I've got, coincidentally, going to look at the back here.
Volume 10.
Oh, you say volume 10 at the top, right? The classic UK comics. This has already been published by IDW. The UK volume is, I believe, 2/3 of the larger formatted hardback with dust jacket, around about £25 on Amazon, although you will see it for a lot more money being charged for it on Amazon.
What's your thoughts on the collection?
The collection I've really liked. I think the problem is because a lot of the material is American. It's not a problem within itself, but formatting. It means that where we've got the British strips, the original strips were in, I think, Joe 90.
Example
Yeah, and basically they were the centre spreads. So since you stick it in a bound volume, the middle of the actual centre spread is actually disappeared. It's disappeared. In fact, it's not actually readable.
So there's no gutter on the right side or the left side.
I'm looking at
the
around.
right page. So yeah, it disappears, just delves into the centre of the spine.
And I've compared
It's
my
quite weird.
issues to ARWs,
Yeah.
and I've had less issues with this.
Mhm.
That's not to say they don't exist, but I seem to have a wider spread, so
But this
very
does.
little dialogue.
But this does seem to be a common criticism. I look at the first panel on the double spread. Now I've got a character with a blue shirt, presumably talking to somebody that's got the way it's drawn, it's like a hoodie, but he's obviously wearing a shirt. They're looking at a monitor and looking at a planet. Now all I can read is but con can w. And the reply is, for once, Mr. Spock, you were incorrect. That is definitely a planet. Now, I can't see that it's Mr. Spock. I'm actually looking in the binding, and even looking in the binding, I can just about make out a head. I couldn't tell you who that was. Oh yeah, I can just see Spock's face on the opposite. So the problem with it is the binding. They've made no concession to the formatting of this hardback.
No.
Or even on
Yeah.
the IDW, it was tight, but you could actually
So it
make
could
out
certainly come out a bit
images.
further here, give you a bit more space there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have taken the image here and move it over by
So half a centimetre.
Half a
Do
centimetre.
you find
both
that
sides.
occurs with things like the American comic issues where they've got two-page spreads? Are they still suffering from that problem?
I've
You
not
know,
noticed. I've not noticed that.
once.
I'm now on to the. I think it's Joe 90 annual.
And that's much better.
I think I've mentioned this
Yeah, you
before.
have got to.
There is no problem at all here. It actually looks very nice, and Ron Turner is using the gold key design for the transporter room from the gold key Star Trek comics,
Yeah.
because and again, you know, the backpacks.
So they hadn't seen the TV series at this stage.
No, so his reference material was obviously the gold key comics. But then again, going back to Joe 90 stuff, and I will add that they've slotted in the Joe 90 annual strip in the wrong place. They've done it for the year it came out. Sorry, the year it says on the spine rather than
Not the year
when,
it came
when
out.
it came out.
Yeah.
Lehman's error.
But then when you get further in, I'm actually struggling to find. Right, the strip is going from colour to black and white. Don't know. There we go. So when it goes to black and white, you've got the additional pages. So it actually looks okay. It's readable.
Yeah.
Now I'm
2/3 through.
two-thirds through before you can actually read this properly.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what the returns are like on this particular volume. The rest of it's fine. I don't think there's any other issues. With
The
future
newspaper
material.
strips was quite bad, wasn't it? I think.
it was.
You had issues with that, don't you?
That was a guillotine issue rather
Guillotine,
than
that's right.
a problem with the package being put together. But,
Yeah.
the Star Trek collection, my hands up. I've liked it so far.
The specials, do you like those? Obviously, they're covering the crossover comics, like Green Lantern, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, Star Trek. One assumes Doctor Who, Star Trek.
I remember
League of
reading
Superheroes.
there was a novel, and it was where I had a Next Generation crossing over with X-Men, and it was one of the worst written things I've ever read in my life. It was. I thought, oh, great combination. I thought, this just sucks from beginning to end. It was just sort of like, here you are. We've got two brilliant franchises. Let's write something unreadable for it. But there have been really good crossovers.
Yeah.
So much that can be done with
I
it.
mean, there are so many odd ones. We've covered them on BCH, and we've had feedback from people saying, "Well, no, I've actually bought this series. It's actually very good. You should read it." But when you actually see it on paper, you kind of think, "I don't know why that works." So I think the choices, what we've had so far, we've had Green Lantern,
and Planet
Star
of the
Trek,
Apes.
and Planet of the Apes.
And
I think the Planet of the Apes one,
Yeah.
I think that sort of does sort of work in that
works
world.
well.
Green Lantern, I'm not so sure about.
Oddly enough, the Green Lantern one, whilst we were getting our initial volume on the specials, and it's lovely, shiny, dust jacketed,
Lovely. Yeah.
£15 volume,
Yeah.
they're actually doing a sequel to that in the actual comics.
They are.
So there's
Nice.
a crossover part 2 there.
And I think
It's
we've
quite
got
nice.
Legion of Superheroes, haven't we? coming this
Legion of
year?
Superheroes is
Yeah.
the next one due in the next couple of months, I believe.
So yeah, I've £15. That's the price point I like. Yeah, yes, I'm
Yeah.
thumbs up for that. Yeah.
and do you go into the premium subscription for your photo novels, which I think there are 4 or 6? I think it's 4.
I've not subscribed to the Star Trek one because I wanted one of the Hachette ones to finish before making that sort of commitment.
Sure.
It is. I don't know if anyone else is doing it, but
No.
it's the John Byrne photo novels. Now,
Yeah.
James, you might remember the photo novels
I
of
do.
the
In
late
fact,
70s.
I saw several of them in a market in Brighton last week, £3 a shot, and I was really seriously tempted. I mean, it's kind of weird that now. I mean, when I bought those, and I had the original 12 set. Of course, at that time you didn't have domestic video recorders, so getting good quality photo reproductions on gloss paper was really good. And one of the few ways you could relive the episodes at your own pace.
The reproduction on them was brilliant.
Yeah.
They did the same with quite a few films and whatever.
Battlestar Galactica I had in that format.
Did you have that in colour or black and white?
Good question. I think it's black and white actually.
Yeah, because I think the original American one was actually in colour.
Yeah.
Well, I had Close Encounters. I had Love at First Bite. I had Grease.
Did that one? Yeah.
Trying to think the other ones. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the remake. With the John Byrne ones, he's taken the stills, and what he's done is actually put two different stills together. He used the background. Sometimes he's put new actors or maybe his friends in a Star Trek, you know, and they really stand out. But his effects work for starships and that sort of stuff is not very good. Although some of the storylines have actually been interesting. They did a sequel to Where No Man Has Gone Before, and that is genuinely interesting. But no, I'm not subscribing to that. I've read them as collections, but like I say, I've not subscribed.
I find it quite interesting that the Star Trek range has got 80 issues in it, because of course there are only 79 episodes of the original series.
That's true.
So it's kind of like Turnabout in Brute Intruder +1 basically, which is quite apt.
I have to say, out of all the collections, the Star Trek graphic novels, I just love the covers. There's something about them, how they're kind of... It's more integrated a cover than the previous books we've seen, I think. And I just really enjoy it.
I would point out
I really like
that cover. I'm now looking at the classic UK Comics Part 1. The bottom row of the heads of the characters is actually on the IDW original cover. This is actually, the Enterprise here isn't from... Not from the era, which you can tell. This is actually from the newspaper strips by IDW, right, from their same hardback range. Now, when you get to the newspaper strip one, you've got a really awful picture of William Shatner, and the original cover on the IDW hardbacks is a lot better. So I would agree with you that most of their cover releases are brilliant. I think this is slightly flawed. It's acceptable, slightly flawed. The newspaper one, just think it was awful. Cover-wise, consensus one.
The Judge Dredd Mega Collection launched 31st of January 2015. Initial run of 80, recently been extended to 90. So obviously sales good enough to warrant an extension, but we're not talking 20 issue series. That's literally 6 months, if that, of extension. What's our thoughts on that collection?
Good value for money. I think it's been consistently good. Again, I'm not a fan of the extensions. Given that when this podcast will go out, when it's planned to go out, it's due to go out on the 23rd of August, which is when the 2000 AD collection, hardback collection, is due to go out. So I would prefer the Dread one to have stopped and the 2000 AD one to have started. Not a crossover, because it's...
We're looking at one more year's worth of publication for that time.
But like I say, if they stick to the quality of and page count of the Mega Collection, I think it's a goer. I think it's a goer. Although they're doing Slaying the Horned God, which I must admit I'm a little bit over familiar with.
Yeah, I've got so many editions of that.
But that's the one they're launching with. But it will be $1.99, so maybe it's worth buying again.
So thumbs up, thumbs down for that?
Judge Dredd Mega Collection, thumbs up. I guess I consistently enjoy it.
Star Trek, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Other than a couple of issues, with, no pun intended, with the collection, I enjoy it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
And DC, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Yeah, thumbs up. Well, Eagle Moss is going to get thumbs up, so Eagle Moss.
Yeah, I'd agree with thumbs up for all three of those personally.
Yeah, okay with that.
As you helpfully mentioned, 2 weeks from now, 28th of August, the 2000 AD
it's
Ultimate
28.
Collection.
No, it's not 28. It's 23rd, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh, I might be wrong.
Well,
I've
I'm
got
just
28th
thinking,
here, but you know.
well, because that means 2 podcasts will go out the same day, because it's Jack Kirby's 100th birthday on the 28th.
That time in there, Jack.
We can look at
We
that.
might have to edit this, mightn't we? One of us is
maybe,
wrong.
maybe. But it's got
If
an
you're-
initial run of 80 issues.
If you're wrong, you're staying in.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong,
yeah.
I'm editing it out.
Sure.
Right, initial run of...
80 issues.
Okay.
First issue is obviously we have Slain the Horned God.
Yep.
Issue 2, The Ballad of Halo Jones.
Oh, cool.
Issue 3, Shikara the Avenger. Issue 4, Strong Team Dog.
Brilliant. Yeah.
The Kree Conspiracy.
Okay.
Now, subscription gifts, if you want to subscribe, you've got a mug, a free issue, a wallet, the Future Shock DVD,
Yeah, that's very good.
and the kind of tin bookends that you seem to get with all these collections.
Yep.
And you get a 2000 AD sketchbook if you subscribe. How do we feel about those subscription gifts?
When you said mug, I thought I'm going to feel like it if I subscribe to it.
Yeah. You are what you purchase.
I must hold my hand up. I don't like the tins.
No.
I don't see the point of them.
The tin covers that we were talking about in the
Yeah,
previous
don't like
collections
them.
we've mentioned?
No, don't
yeah.
like them.
Yeah. Don't
cut
have
your
that
finger
here,
on them.
but you do have a wallet instead. You know.
Don't care. The other thing is mention the art. What was it? The artwork
You get the 2000 AD sketchbook.
sketchbook. That potentially might be interesting. But
Yeah.
is it going to be like a paperback thing with 10 pictures in it?
Now this may tempt you. Premium subscription. You know, extra £1.50 an issue though,
Ah, I see.
and you get
Inflation.
so far, presumably for the whole collection, 6 figures. You have
No.
Nemesis the Warlock, Judge Dredd, Halo Jones, Judge Death, Nikolai Volta, and Rogue Trooper. And there's a picture of 4 of them up on the website at the moment.
Okay.
It didn't seem to state the size of them, but I'm assuming it's in line with their usual kind of 6-inch figures that
No,
they do.
Google. The Warlock is very far away.
But could that tempt you for a premium subscription there?
Just, I thought you were going to say there were like £1.50 extra for a hardcover graphic novel, dust jacket, thicker than normal. Now you said figures, it's completely lost my interest.
Fair
So
enough.
I'm quite happy to forego the
It's a really
figures
nice.
on that
It's
one.
it's kind of it's odd though. It's like I bought a very rare Japanese or Chinese, I think it was, issue the film Hero, and it's unbelievable because it actually has figures of the characters in here, the film Hero in it. And I was just going, what the hell? I've never even seen this before. And there's one was 7 swords with 7 miniature swords, and some of those things are so that they put such effort into the packaging and the accompanying products. You're going, that's really beautiful, and I'll get it for that. With those figures, things like the comic things, I don't know. It depends on the figures. If they're good quality, and particularly with British characters, if it brings the character across, I'd be quite tempted. But I tend to have an awful lot of silly little figures like that, so I'm probably quite tempted by that.
Yeah. Okay, so are we going to get on board with this collection? Because this will be the 7th graphic novel collection still running.
Okay.
None of them are finished yet. This will be the 7th one.
I'm going to do the initial run. If Judge Dredd Mega Collection finishes, and if the Red Collection finishes, I'm on board. But long term, if there can be extensions involved, I don't know. I'd like to do it.
Get on board for a journey that will never ever end.
Yeah. I think I'll pick up the first 2 issues because they're usually discounted, aren't they?
Yeah, of course.
So beyond that, I literally cannot afford to buy any more until a collection has finished. So
I think there is an issue.
I like the idea. I even love the covers. For what they
there is an issue to do with oversaturation of the market. Because they're covering things that a lot of us are interested in similar kind of things.
It's selling to the same market generally.
Yeah. So I'd like to know whether the DC. I'll ask my colleague again whether the DC thing is the Ecomos DC thing is actually accelerated releases.
Because I mean that's potentially 2 collections that finished this year.
Yeah. I did want to mention. I don't know if this is on your notes.
I didn't, mainly because the actual publication wasn't a graphic novel per se.
Yes. This is a sidestep. I've forgotten what the series is called. Is it Doctor Who? The
whole story, the complete story.
Complete story collection.
I think so. Yeah.
Basically, it's just reprints of DWM write-ups on every single Doctor Who story, how they're made, all the rest of it, and they've been updated. If you pay an extra £1 on your subscription, they give you hardcover versions of previously issued Panini collections, and they are really nicely done. The one I've got here is for number 3, which is Voyager. So that's the Colin Baker's Doctor. They put a green wash over the cover.
Frobisher on the cover there?
That is
A
Frobisher.
great
Yeah.
Frobisher,
Great
who
Frobisher.
appears in the Big Finish Holy Terror,
Yeah.
beautifully
It's got
voiced.
lovely glossy
Absolutely amazing
paper
audio, that one.
Yeah,
and crisp black and white
yeah.
reproductions of is it Arthur Ransom's? Is it Arthur Ransom?
Was it initially in black and white? Or
It was. It was originally in black and white.
Okay.
Trying to find the credits. Oh, sorry, John Ridgway here. I go further down. I might be getting a bit confused about the artist. Comes with age, you know. Actually, trying to find other bloody credits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just beautiful. It is the artwork.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. It's just very crisp. It's very very clean, and it's that lovely printed. So we keep going.
The
on.
smell again.
Yeah,
Yes.
lovely printed smell. So yeah, the extra £1 is these are definitely worth it.
That's a nice mention.
I've sort of got a waft of Play-Doh there.
Well, it's not coming from me.
No, beautiful. But yeah,
It
and
does-
again, great art style, sort of more like British illustration,
Yeah.
60s comic style than the American, which works really well on this.
Mm.
Got to say, a very buxom representation of Perry on the cover, following the John Nathan Turner
Something
policy.
for the dads.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Of putting in a costume 2 sizes too small. Poor
Bless
girl.
her.
Maybe that's what one Doctor Who's missing there, isn't it? Something for the dads. But
Yeah.
maybe that is what the new
But I
Doctor's
think
will be.
maybe.
the new one will
maybe.
be something. Will it be something for the mums though? You see, will it be like the latter day Fraser Hines?
Yeah.
I thought something for the mums was David Tennant, personally.
Oh yeah, indeed.
He seemed to go down very well.
Yeah, but it was they were really good stories. I thought Frobisher was a brilliant character. I think there's some really good comic strips, and
It's a nice substantial size as well.
that's a really good substantial
Yeah.
piece. I agree.
It's
That's a nice
larger
little
than
addition
the
there.
larger than the normal Hachette
Yeah.
Eagle Moss
Fool's
stuff.
cappy type size, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Now,
It's fun
final point on this episode. Obviously, we have the 2000 AD Ultimate Collection launching. There's clearly money in this. What future collections can you see launching, or would you like to see launch in the future? If you are able to, even get invested at this stage.
You already know the answer to this one. I don't want to stop.
So, what would you love to see out there as a part works?
Okay.
Assuming there's no other part works going at the time.
Right, I don't know if you're aware of this. I've only found this out through third parties. I certainly wasn't asked myself. Hachette are eager to do another Doctor Who part work.
Interesting.
And they are one of the
Comics?
one of the ideas they had was comics.
Yeah.
Another one was
Books?
the Target novelisations, but in hardback.
Okay.
So potentially, maybe there'll be a graphic novel series using the Titan comics and the IDW comic series.
Do you reckon they might also rope in the Marvel material that's coming out?
Possibly. I don't know whether it might be covered. I don't know.
Because
So it's
they're
early
running for a couple of
stages,
years,
yeah. But they're asking people their opinion on these sort of things.
Yeah.
The other one would be like a fact file type thing.
Mm.
We will be, or this may even be posted on PCH before this podcast goes out.
Yeah. For
There is a dummy
me,
cover.
there is one glaring omission in all of these.
Ooh.
One that, in the last couple of years you'd think that is so obvious, it's just a given.
Is
And
it
we haven't
about-
seen it yet.
Is it about you?
No, it's not a bod part work, but that'd be amazing, definitely.
Yeah, it would, yeah. Be a podcast.
We've had Star Trek. I'd never expected a Star Trek graphic novel collection ever.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased that's turned up.
Yeah.
What's more obvious than Star Trek? Star Wars. Where is the Star Wars graphic novel collection? They've got a ton of legacy books.
Yeah, totally.
Marvel are printing about 12 books a month at the moment. They've got a ton of material to mine into there. Where's that?
I might have an answer for you, and I suspect you told me. France?
They did test launch in France. It's still going, issue 45.
Oh,
That's
That's a
test
year and a
launch.
half ago.
That's some test launch.
Where's the English speaking world? Where's
Yeah.
the UK, USA?
You see, I was
launch?
quite suspicious they didn't do a tie-in Star Wars volume for the R2D2.
Because they tested DC collection in Germany. I don't know how much previous to our release they did that, but they did test that in Germany. But yeah, the Star Wars one, we've had 2 films out, a third on the way. You'd assume, come January, here you go, Star Wars graphic novel collection, that will be lapped up.
Under whose umbrella is that? Eagle Moss, is it?
Because I think Hachette and Eagle Moss are connected globally in some manner. I don't actually know who would publish it here.
I think I looked at that before, couldn't find it clear.
In France,
right.
But it's not to say it wouldn't be Eagle Moss over here. I really don't know. I think they're somehow connected.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The thing I would like to see released, if it ever did, would actually be, but it's too left field, I'll never get enough traction, was the Trigon Empire. I would love to see a proper series reprint, because that was the thing that made Look and Learn worth getting in the 70s. The artwork in it is exquisite.
Can I mention something that it's not a part work, but things are now starting to happen. Rebellion bought a lot of the British Comic Archive from I think it might be either Fleetway or IPC or whatever. They're now doing, you have to look it up online, but it's Treasury of British Comics. Right. So far they've done Leopard of Line Street.
Yep.
They've done One-Eyed
Jack.
I think it's One-Eyed Jack, which is the pre-runner of Judge Street, basically. They're doing the Look-In, I think it's, again I would say, keep saying Arthur Ransom, I think it's Arthur Ransom. The Look-In Beatles story, which is beautiful. We've run a couple of pages of it previously. So I think there's a potential of more classic material coming out, and maybe Trigon Empire may be part of that, that release schedule.
I think it's worthwhile, because I think the artwork is really, really beautiful, and I'd love to see it, because originally on the Look and Learn, they actually printed it on thin but gloss paper. So actually the art was really good, and whereas the reprint collection I got, I think it's the St Michael's M&S kind of reprint label, was actually on matte standard paper, and it doesn't do it justice at all. It's one of those things that just looks beautiful and really, really could benefit from a reprint on modern technology.
There's one thing I wanted to, you've said that, there's one thing I just wanted to add to the part works. I've certainly noticed on some of them, I've seen it in the Star Trek collection, they obviously don't have the original negatives or colour schemes for some issues, so they've actually scanned the actual comic pages and used those. It's certainly in the Marvel collection, because suddenly the feel of it isn't as crisp.
It's kind of like a slightly fuzzy feel to it, isn't it?
The colours just doesn't quite.
The curious thing is on the Trigon Empire.
So I'm seeing that more, and they're one of the Hachette, the superhero ones. I don't know if it's the Black collection or I can't remember which one it was now. I thought, I hope this isn't going to become a regular.
Well, I had a problem that the Trigon Empire collection I got, the anthology, had colour registration issues, so that the 3 plates for the 3 colours weren't properly aligned, and you get ghosting on certain pages. I'm thinking, this is just horrible, because the artwork was so good, it really was streets ahead of things in its era. I'm just going, this is really, really poor. It's just sort of like it deserves better.
I think we
okay. I think that covers all the Partworks collections for this episode. I'd like to thank James, RW, I've been Bod, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Prepare yourself for the adventures of the world's greatest superheroes with the DC Comics graphic novel collection, featuring Batman, Superman, and many more. With groundbreaking stories and the most iconic characters from 75 years of DC Comics. Start your collection of hardback graphic novels. Batman, Hush Part 1, out now, only $2.99.
Transformers, the definitive Generation 1 collection. Chronicle the epic story of the robots in disguise, from the origins right up to the present day, in this brand new collection of special edition hardback graphic novels. Plus, each book comes with exclusive bonus content. Start your Transformers collection. Issue 1 just $1.99.
Introducing a landmark series of exclusive special edition hardback graphic novels. Marvel's Mightiest Heroes. All the most iconic Marvel characters brought together in one incredible collection. Plus exclusive and never before seen bonus material. Every fortnight, build your collection of Marvel's Mightiest Heroes. Issue 1, The Avengers, out now.